Welcome to the Right Podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Williams, best-selling romance author, book coach, and founder of Serenade Publishing. I've been an avid reader since I could hold a book and have spent over a decade immersed in the world of writing, editing, and publishing fiction. I know firsthand what it takes to turn a love of storytelling into a sustainable, soul-aligned author career. Each week, I share real talk about writing fiction, marketing smarter, and staying inspired, along with up-to-the-date industry insights and strategies that are working right now. You'll also hear from fellow authors, editors, and industry experts who are out there doing the work and making waves. Here, we put the woo in the work of writing, publishing, and growing your author business. Think of this as your creative business pep talk, packed with heart, hustle, and a little bit of magic. So get cozy and join me. Your writing journey starts now. Hey Scribe, Sarah here, and welcome back to the Right Podcast. Today we're diving into something super exciting that a lot of you have been asking about: audiobooks. Whether you're audiobook curious or already considering turning your novels into audio, this episode is going to give you lots of practical insights. I'm chatting with the incredibly talented Amy Soakes, a professional narrator who's voiced over 100 audiobooks across a range of accents: Australian, English, American, you name it. She also runs narratorlist.com, a brilliant site that really helps indie authors connect with skilled narrators. I actually used it myself thanks to a tip from Catherine Bilson and found some amazing voices for my own projects. In this episode, Amy shares how she got into the audiobook industry, what narrators look for in a project, and, most importantly, how you as an author can get started. We cover everything from casting and production timelines to cost, royalty options, and whether audiobooks are financially worth it. So if you've ever wondered what goes into bringing your story to life in audio form, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Welcome to the podcast, Amy.
Lovely to be here, Sarah. How are you going today?
I'm so good. I am so excited to talk to you today. So you have narrated over 100 audiobooks with accents including Australian, English, and American. Yay. So first off, I would love to know how you got into this industry.
I have a long history of satelliting around the television industry. So I did a bit of acting when I was younger and a fair bit of presenting. So I'd sort of been around both in front of the camera and behind the camera. And I love the thought of audiobooks because it's kind of, as an actor, like you are doing a radio play, but you get to play every part, including the narrator. So yeah, I found it really good. And I know a lot of other narrator friends that are similar. They're actors as well. So it's a really interesting job for someone like that.
Yeah, amazing. So I was put onto your website, narratorlist.com, a couple of months ago by my dear friend, Catherine Bilson, who's also been on the show.
Love Catherine, yep.
So my history with audiobooks. So in 2019, I actually asked Miles Pollard, who used to play Nick on McLeod's Daughters. I met him very, universe kismetly. And we ended up recording that, he and I, in a production studio, in a sound studio with a audio director there. And the three of us worked together and knocked out book one and then went on to do 2 and 3 as well. It was fantastic. It was a very expensive project, but I think probably mostly expensive because I was doing a Logie nominated actor. So, but 2019, that was the last time COVID hit everything. So I stopped recording audiobooks. And then I started this year kind of going 2025, I should do that again because I love audiobooks. I'm an audiobook girly, like that's how I consume books. And I was like, oh, things have changed. Like what happened to Find Away Voices? Like they got bought out by Spotify. So I was like stuck and talking to Catherine one day, just going, you narrate audiobooks. Like, what am I supposed to do here? So she put me onto narrator list, thank God, because that has changed my life. And I just incredibly grateful that you put that list together because I was stuck in this oblivion of I don't know what to do.
I think that's very common. In America, the conduit for authors and narrators to find each other initially and to get something up on Audible is a website that we're not actually allowed to use here. You can only use if you're a resident of the US, Canada, Ireland, or the UK. So I actually started Narrator List and an Australian version as well called Aussie Narrator for Australian and New Zealand narrators, because I couldn't find work. You know, if I can't use ACX, how are we supposed to get together with, bring authors and narrators together to work together?
Mhm.
So that is the problem. I mean, if you're trad published and you're selling really well, your publisher will probably, you know, organize the audio book for you. If you're lucky, you get some input, but often not. But most of us aren't in that situation. So in order for indie authors to find narrators, audition them, work out, you know, negotiate payment conditions or royalty share, and then work out how to upload their books to, you know, what was Findaway or some other system, it was a way to let people have that information.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do remember the ACX back in 2019. So Audible, what do they call themselves? Yeah, just Audible, isn't it? Yeah, they were closed off. But is it true that if you go through Audible, you can only use that narration on Audible? You can't take it over to Spotify?
There are, when you're looking at producing an audiobook, there are several questions you're going to have to answer. One of them is, where am I going to distribute it and who am I going to distribute it through? And the other thing that's tied in with that is, how am I going to pay or share royalties with my narrator? And those things are all, if you decide on one, it affects the options that are open to the other two. So originally, ACX stands for Audiobook Creation Exchange, and it was basically the audiobook version of KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing. So when indie authors gained access to Amazon, it was usually through KDP, and it gave them a conduit, chopping out the publisher to go direct to market and put their work up. And ACX was the same thing for audiobooks. So it was set up by Amazon. It brought authors and narrators together. Authors could audition narrators, pick one, and the ACX umbrella would look after sort of the technicalities of, are the files acceptable, and all the payments. So when you do an audiobook, you generally want it on Audible and Amazon. There are two ways kind of that Audible or ACX kind of polices that. You can either go what's called exclusive, which means you get a higher rate of royalty, but you can only have the book available on Audible, Amazon, and I think Apple. That's certainly how it was before. And the other way is what's called wide, which means you get a lower percentage of royalty from Amazon, Audible, and Apple, but you can sell your book in other places. So you can put it on Spotify, you can send it to libraries, you can sell it from your own website or through a conduit like BookFunnel, or there's also a couple of other ones, MySoundWise and Glassbox are two that come to mind, where you can sell direct to consumers, and it's delivered in an app, as like Audible is. And it's so when you're deciding, okay, how am I going to do my audiobook, you can either go exclusive, which means no matter what conduit you go through to get it to Audible, Amazon, and Apple, it will only be able to be sold there. So you have less control, but you get a better royalty. Or you can go wide, which means you have a lot more freedom with where you want to put it, but Audible gives you a lower royalty.
Yes.
So those are some of the questions that people have to ask. Because ACX here in Australia isn't open to us, you generally have to go through some other conduit anyway, some sort of distributor or aggregator. And those will often have a choice of, okay, do you want to be exclusive or do you want to be wide? So we can just send it to those, you know, Amazon-y Audible things, or we can open it up to all these other places, which we will send it to for you. So that's one of the choices that happens. Did that answer your question?
That did. I certainly, with these books from 2019, once Spotify opened up, and I wouldn't say most of it, I certainly am, and all my kids and people I know, we're all on the Spotify Premium. So to be able to get a free audio of 16 hours, that's been really effective. And in my marketing plans, with audio being a big thing that I'm working on now, I love the Spotify, and I'm not an exclusive anything author. All my books and all the books that I publish, they're all for all of the platforms. So I never want to put all my eggs in one basket, so to say.
I think that's a good way to be.
Yeah. And I think especially being in Australia, and my books, that first original series is actually an Australian series anyway. So of course it's going to sell well in Australia. Always has. And yeah, I love Amazon. I'm definitely not going to say anything bad. And I love Audible, and I am an Audible subscriber. But yeah, having all your eggs in that one basket of the Zon is not something I encourage people to do, for sure. But I know people have done well with them.
Some of the platforms, and ACX brought this in a couple of years ago now, you can go for so many months exclusive and then take it wide, which has helped people out a lot. The problem as far as paying for your audiobook goes is that if you're exclusive or wide, may limit how you can pay your narrator, because if it's exclusive, then ACX or whoever your conduit is to them will tend to split the payments 50-50 between you and the narrator. So if you want to go royalty share, so you're not paying any upfront costs to produce your audiobook, you've got to go through some sort of conduit that will allow you to split payments 50-50, and not all of them do. So then if you want to go wide, you're generally limited in that you have to pay for the production of your audiobook upfront or at the time that it's completed. And the reason for that is it's too hard to police otherwise. If you are selling audiobooks from your own website and from, all these other categories as well, libraries or whatever, it's too hard to split the payments 50-50 with your narrator. So that can be a factor in who and how you distribute, is whether you've got the budget to pay someone up front.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got on Narrator list, and I, with your help, put out an audition, and I had, oh my gosh, like so many people. I felt very special for a few weeks. Another one. It was amazing. So I got a whole bunch of different narrators. So my story, I'll run this through real time so people can work it with us. So mine is Songbird, which was my book that came out earlier this year. It's the first in a 3-book series. So I was looking to contract 2 people, a man and a woman, in either a dual or a duet, which we'll discuss in a sec, to do 3-book series. So I guess that was enticing for people as well, because 3-book contract. Talk us through the duet and the dual and the solo sort of production.
Okay. Well, the solo narrator production means the narrator voices the entire book, so they voice all the dialogue and all the exposition and everything else. So you're just dealing with one narrator, and obviously they change their voice for different characters and things like that. With dual, and you always get these two mixed up, so I'm sure I've got it right. Dual, I believe, is where if you've got, particularly happens in romances, you've got alternating chapters or alternating passages by the male and the female main characters. So the male character will narrate all the male slabs or male chapters, and the female narrator will narrate all the female chapters or female point of view chapters. So they will do, within that, if it's a male chapter, he'll do the female's lines in there as well, and the same with the female narrator. So it makes it easy to edit, because chapters come in and it's the whole slab is done by one person. A duet, assuming I've got this the right way around, is where if you've got a chapter that might be the female's point of view, every time a male speaks in that chapter of dialogue, the male records that line and an editor has to pop them in, and the same with the females' slabs of information. Any male that speaks will be done by the male narrator. So in some ways, it's a little bit more realistic in that you've got the correct gender saying the lines. Some people absolutely adore it, and you have other listeners that can sometimes not be. It feels like it maybe takes them out of the story. It's quite polarizing. I find it really interesting to read surveys about it. That
everyone always has their opinions about things, don't they? Which is fine. We're allowed to. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I literally just this past week really narrowed it down. And actually what I loved was, because I said I wanted a man and a woman, I was just the dual is fine. I actually had where men and women who have worked together are actually emailing me together. And oh my gosh, that was amazing. I loved it. Because it's like they come to me, they already have a relationship. Generally, the couple that I did choose, they're not like a couple in real life or anything. But the duet, the dual that came to me, they've worked together and have such a good relationship that they even work out the pricing. Like, I don't have to pay him and then pay her. I just have to pay them and they split it. Which for me, as a busy person running a business, is just like, oh my God, that's so much easier. Yes, please, just do that.
The narration team is really good because they do work well together. Usually their voices work well together. And there are husband and wife teams that do it as well, or real couples, which makes it even easier because it's recorded in the same space.
Yes.
So the sound is the same as well. But yeah, it's duet and dual. We're seeing more and more of it. It's particularly big in the romance genre. We're also starting to see sound effects come in. And again, some people absolutely love that. Some people are going to take a little while to get used to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's an added, all these things add technicalities to it, and therefore can add cost.
Yes.
But yeah, we're in a state of flux anyway because of the big monster of AI hanging over us all as well. So and that's one thing. I made Narrator List 4 or 5 years ago, and there's a lot of information on there for authors or people wanting to write things, but I kind of haven't updated it because you're busy doing your real job. It's kind of a labor of love the last few years. But yeah, things that you would know with indie publishing, the landscape changes. So what's in today may not be the same tomorrow. So
absolutely. And we do have AI looming over us, for better or for worse. We're not going to get into that discussion today. We're all about real people.
Well, there are aspects of it that could help. Like, for instance, when you narrate an audiobook, to produce 1 hour of finished audio takes between 6 and 8 hours, but usually about 7.5 hours to make. Now, 2 of that, so about a quarter of the time, is actually in the booth narrating. The rest of it is all the technical stuff around it, the audio engineering, the prep work, stuff like that. So if you could leverage AI to do some of the heavy lifting in those tedious areas, and it would free up narrators to actually narrate more and put more human narration together, there would be an advantage there. So although I am not advocating AI at all, and I think we are living in an incredibly scary world at the moment, maybe not throwing the baby out with the bathwater there. If we use it to make the labor intensive things easier, you never know where we might get. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I think that's a very valid point. And I use Pro Writing Aid, for example, to help me out spell check and that sort of thing. These are things we've been using for a while and no one's ever gotten cranky about. So we find our narrator. We've talked through the different types. So how long does it actually take to produce an audiobook?
Because of that sort of 7 to 8 hour for each finished audio hour, it can take a fair while. The other thing is you can't really narrate for 8 hours a day. You can probably do a maximum of 4 hours in the booth. And part of that reason is you're not just wearing the narrator hat. You tend to be wearing the director and the audio engineer as well. When you recorded with Miles in a production studio, you probably would have been recording for 5 or 6 hours in a day, because he would have an audio engineer, and you and the audio engineer would be there to direct and check things as well. So although it takes, a full day to produce 1 hour of audio, you can't really say in 8 days the 8-hour book will be done. So it tends to live with you for a little while, and you tend to be doing prep on the next book and editing on the last book while you are managing narration. So it might be 3 or 4 weeks to do, certainly an 80,000 word novel. As far as if you want to compute how long the novel's going to be, the rule of thumb most narrators work by is 9,300 words to an hour of audio. That can be faster or slower depending on what sort of read it is, but yeah, that's an approximate. So if you've got a 50,000 word book, it's probably going to be between 5 and 6 hours long in the finished product. So when you're working out how much it's going to cost you, that's what you're working on.
Yes, so you do a per finished hour. So tell us about the costing that authors are looking at when they do this.
Well, you've got those 2 avenues. You've got a royalty share where you split royalties with the narrator, but you have to attract a narrator to do that. So you have to, that tends to be books that are selling fairly well, or you've got a campaign behind it that or quite a loyal following that the book's going to sell. And the other way is to pay them for their services. It's called per finished hour. I sometimes refer to it as paid up front, but you don't usually pay until the end delivery of it. Though if a narrator's working with a new to them author, they'll often ask for a 25% payment up front or whatever. And the costs are really, well, in America, the SAG-AFTRA, which is the Actors Union minimum, is I think somewhere around $250 per finished hour. So that works out at probably about $320 to $350 Australian per finished audio hour. So it's a costly business. If you're paying up front, but you do get that ability to sell it everywhere, and you own the copyright then. In Australia, you can go under SAG-AFTRA anyway. I know you can get a book done for $200 Australian per finished audio hour. But, if you are looking for, in America, like a well-known audiobook narrator, you're probably looking at $400 American per finished audio hour. So I tend to work here, like you tend to think maybe in Australian dollars, 200 to 400 Australian dollars per finished audio hour.
Yeah, so, I definitely know there are certain American, particular, very sexy voiced men and women who have followings. I know I follow a lot of people on TikTok and will just, narrate with the video going, or YouTube even. And they will sell books just because they are so well known. Yeah.
And those are the $400 plus US dollars per audio hour ones.
Yeah.
A lot of them too, if they're trad published books, then in America, you have audible studios, and you have production houses such as you recorded in with Miles. But the majority of audiobooks in America are made from a home-based studio. So narrators will get a professional studio in their home and narrate from there, even for trad published books. In Australia and the UK, that's not the case. The UK generally have people come into a studio. COVID changed that a bit so that they actually trusted people's home studios a bit more and not having their own audio engineer. In Australia, we are really a fledgling industry, and part of that is because ACX has never been open to us. So the confidence of people to become narrators, because it's not the work there to do, is difficult. And then the confidence of indie authors to say, how do I get this done and where do I go, and how do I know this is going to turn out all right, is really difficult. Yes. So we have 2 studios that do trad published books. It's Belinda in Melbourne and Wave Sound in Sydney, and they have studios themselves, but they also hire, or outsource to other studios there. So in Australia, Indie authors, I know a lot of indie authors that have done a lot of audiobooks, but they tend to have researched it all from an overseas standpoint and sort of are very savvy on how it happens and how to do it. And that's one of the problems we have here with narrators. It's that we have a pool of narrators, but not all of them have a lot of experience in audiobooks. And one of the biggest things is having a space and the equipment to record in so that the sound will be pristine, but then cleaning it up so that it is actually to audiobook level, and that the specs as far as the loudness and the dynamic range and everything can throw people a little bit, because here we tend to have audiobook narrators that are maybe radio announcers as well, or voiceover people, or gaming character actors. So it's just a little bit on a different level, but those skills can cross over. But it's growing all the time. We're getting, more and more people such as yourself thinking, this is the way of the future. People are consuming audiobooks at an alarming rate, and there are voracious audiobook listeners. We need to get in on this. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Are there, I know there's a lot of authors who would rather outsource this to other people, and Tantor, Podium and that sort of thing. What are they exactly?
If you could outsource to them, that'd be great. But they are basically the Simon & Schuster and the Harper and they are Penguin. You can't just outsource to them. They come to you and knock on your door. If they notice you on Amazon and you notice you're selling well, they will come to you and ask you. Or if you are trad published with someone else, then Tantor might do the audio. So there are production houses you can outsource to that are specifically audiobook ones, but they're not those big names that you've just mentioned. Most of them have been set up either by audio engineers or by narrators. So one that comes to mind is Lyric Audio. Lyric Audio is set up by Andy Arndt, who's a very well-known American romance narrator. So she has a production house called Lyric. Pink Flamingo Productions will produce for you, or they will just distribute for you. They are a conduit for us in Australia to distribute our books, either wide or exclusive. She was originally a romance narrator as well, but she has now branched out so that she casts books for other people. She produces them, and she is a good conduit for us in that I think she will manage to do royalty share wide, which can be a hard thing to find through a lot of avenues. Authors Republic, you might have heard of. 3 or 4 years ago, when I wrote the facts on Narrator List, there was Authors Republic, Find Away Voices, Audiobooks Unleashed is another one that's by a narrator as well. So we have these production houses where they will cast it, they will make sure it's to spec for you, they will liaise with you to make sure you're happy, and they will then distribute it for you. So it is a one-stop shop, effectively. Of course, everyone takes their cut though, so
yes.
And then saying that, when you're looking at what you're going to make from audiobooks, I haven't been to the Authors Republic website for a while, but I know they used to tout, you keep 80% of your royalties, so you make 80% of your sales or whatever, and that's not quite how it is. You get 80% of what they get, and they may get, like, if a book sells on Audible and it's wide, Audible or ACX sends whoever the distributor is 25% of this price it's sold for. So you get 80% of the 25%, not 80% of the sale price of your book. And the other thing to note is books don't usually sell on Audible for their list price. If a book is, actually, I made a couple of notes. I looked up audible.com or amazon.com for Brothers of Brigadier Station.
Thank you.
This morning, which is Sarah's book, audiobook. The Audible list price in America was $19.95. If you bought that from Amazon.com, I think it was $17.46. So you've lost a little bit already. If someone gets it with their monthly credit, it drops to the price of their monthly credit, which is $14.95. If they are on Premium Plus, then they get 2 credits for $22.95 a month. So now your book's selling for $11.50. And this is the real killer, if they go to Amazon and buy your ebook, there's a little thing down the bottom that says add audiobook for this price. Yeah. Now your audiobook there this morning was $4.41. Yeah. So yes, you get the 99 cents, but they get the ebook too. But the narrator doesn't get that. They only get the 50% of, yeah. So your $20 audiobook, if it's sold on Audible wide, would net you $4. But if it only gets you $4.41, then you get 88 cents. So when you're doing your sums is how long is it going to take me to pay off the cost of paying someone to narrate this? Bear that in mind. You're not, depending on how it sells on Audible or on Amazon, is not the list price. Books rarely sell for the list price on Audible.
Yeah, and I think that is very symbolic of the publishing industry. There are easier ways to make money than being a writer.
Yeah, you do it because, well, it's like me. I narrate because I have to. It's the passion, it's the creativity, and the actor in me that needs to work. Yeah. And I think authoring can be like that too. You're just so full of this story that wants to be told that you have to spew it out on the page, and it's a calling. It's not a strategic thing of, oh, this will be a good way to earn money.
Yeah. And I know certainly in the past there have been, scams going around where you return audiobooks and you get your money back and those sorts of things. And there was definitely a big thing a few years ago with Audible not paying out and that sort of thing. So I think, I would like to think that as authors and people in creative industries, we will all band together and help, make people not take these scammy routes and get information free. I mean, an ebook is $4.99. It's less than a cup of coffee these days. So audiobook, same sort of thing. And when we think of that as audio as well, I was talking to someone about this with character art a couple of days ago. It's we're paying for all of that, all those years you have trained to become the amazing narrator that you are today, rather than just me trying to do it with no training at all.
Well, that's the other thing. Have you ever thought of narrating your own book? Because I get that question from people as well. Or people write to me and say, oh, I've been told I've got a really nice voice and I read to my kids every night. The actual narration, while probably a really, really, really important part is, if there's all these other things with it. That's not just the job, generally, unless you're lucky enough to just walk in a studio and read what's there, which doesn't happen the majority of the time.
I would probably say the only time I recommend someone narrates their own audiobook is if it's a non-fiction book about them.
Non-fiction's good, and my advice to anyone that does that, don't do your most important book first. And even with narrating, with producing audiobooks, I would say if you've got a short prequel or novella, do that first, because you will learn so much during the process of how to communicate with your narrator, what you like and what you don't like. Don't put your flagship as the first one if you can avoid it, so that you will do something short first and then do your flagship and make it really good. And if you narrate, always go back and narrate the first chapter again, or certainly the first 5 minutes, because that is the sample that people hear when they click on it. And you have lived with those characters in that story for the better part of a month. You know them inside out by then. Go back and redo that first little bit and it'll be a lot stronger. And Absolutely. How do you feel about subscription models? Because we're talking about, the Zons and things, and the way that, I mean, we have seen audiobook royalties just get lower and lower over time, and I have fears that subscription models are a way to for them to end up with more money and us to have to just go along for the ride.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not in KU. I don't have a KU subscription or anything like that for my reading. I do have an Audible subscription where I pay for one a month, and I do have Spotify, which just started because of my podcasts. I like listening to podcasts. And so when they added that in, I was like, oh, bonus. So generally I use up my quota because I'm sort of getting through 4 or 5 a month, which I know isn't big compared to a lot of listeners. But that's big considering everything else that I have to do in my life. So yeah, it is one of those, they're not going away subscription models, I guess. I actually think one of the most helpful things to get my books, my audiobook selling, and this is a few years ago, was when Chirp came about. So Chirp being the BookBub audiobook ones. And even to today, when as authors, when we try and get a BookBub, is your chances are so minuscule, it's almost a waste of time. I kind of laugh every time I do one. But then when I do it with Chirp, I probably 90% of the time will get picked for a featured Chirp deal. And yes, the price goes down, but it's still a ramp up in my sales anyway. So I will
and
still
it's visibility.
Absolutely. And again, I've got 3 books that Miles did. So they might get the first one for even free, but then they pay for the second one and the third one, unless it's the box set, which is a whole thing within itself, because then I've got the 3 books as a box set, which you can get for the same credit that one of them costs.
Yeah. This is the amazing thing, but also the sting in the tail with the big, the big multinationals. I mean, ideally, I've seen people have success by putting, extra things in that, or using it as a way to steer them towards buying off their website, or buying, in a manner that's more conducive to their bottom line rather than someone else's.
Yes.
But it is, I mean, and it's just going to get harder and harder. The market is so crowded now. And I mean, when I look back at the royalty share books that I've done, and I've done through ACX, because I did actually, the first place I narrated was ACX, even though they threw me out once they realized where I was. When I look at those, there's like 56 books or something. There are ones that still sell. There's like one series that sells. Everything else has kind of dipped by the wayside. But there is one particular book that sells, and it is not a very good book, but the person advertises consistently. And I mean, this is what happens in a crowded marketplace. It's the same with ebooks or anything. You kind of got to leverage whatever you can to stick your head above everyone else. And it's sad, I think, because but yeah, it's getting eyes on a book that's really, really good compared to the one that's paid for a lot of advertising. It's like, how do you reach your audience?
Absolutely. Well, I think we have given the audience a lot to think about. Like I said, I am thrilled to pieces that I found your page, narratorlist.com, and the other one is aussienarrators.com.au.
Aussie Narrator, singular. AussieNarrator.com.
There we go. I will have all the links in the show notes and on my website and everything. I am thrilled to pieces. I am so in love with the voices. It was, can I just say, one of those amazing, I listened to the narrating. It was the male, to be fair. It was the male. And he sent in an audiobook, and I just about cried. I'm like, that's Chase. Oh my God. So
that's really, really good. Good luck with it.
Thank you. I am so excited. We're going to be getting it all put together in the new year. So I can't wait. And I know it might be a little vanity thing, but hearing your characters come to life, it's this whole other experience. It's so beautiful.
People talk about it being different from the original, because it's a different medium, but just as exciting. And, it takes on a world of its own as well. So yeah,
Absolutely.
I imagine it would be very interesting and rewarding to hear that. So well
Yeah.
done. I look
Well,
forward to listening to it as well.
thank you. I will definitely be giving updates on the podcast as it all comes about, and I can't wait to share my narratives when I can. But yeah, so thank you so much, and I definitely encourage anyone who's looking at narrating their books to reach out to those websites, and yeah, let us know if there's any questions or anything. And thank you so much for your time today, Amy. I really appreciate it. I hope you found that chat as fascinating as I did. Amy really pulled back the curtain on the audiobook process, and I know it's given me a lot to think about for my own books. If you're feeling inspired to start your own audio journey, now's the perfect time to explore your options and start connecting with narrators. I'll be sharing updates on my own audiobook production in future episodes, so be sure to stay tuned if you want to follow the behind the scenes journey. And as always, if you'd love more support with your writing and publishing, head over to serenadepublishing.com. You'll find free tools like the brainstorming fun sheet. And if you're ready to really upskill your storytelling, check out Fiction Writing Academy, my self-paced course that gives you everything you need to write with confidence. Thanks for joining me today. Don't forget to share this episode with your writing bestie, and I'll catch you next time on the Write Podcast. Happy writing. Thanks so much for listening to the Write Podcast with Sarah Williams. If you enjoyed today's episode, it would mean the world if you'd leave a review and share the show with your writer friends. It helps more creatives find their way to us. And don't forget to follow Serenade Publishing on Instagram and TikTok for more writing tips, publishing advice, and exciting events to keep you inspired. Keep writing, keep dreaming, and know that I'm here to support you every word of the way.